Venezuelan national killed in lorry accident on Essequibo coast. A 27-year-old Venezuelan national, Isaías Rojas, was tragically killed this morning after being pinned down by the motor lorry he was traveling in, which toppled on the Queenstown Access Road around 10:46 hours. At the time of the accident, Rojas was in the tray of motor lorry GAJ 7403, alongside another Venezuelan national, the driver, and another male occupant in the front seat. According to the driver, who reported the incident to the police, he was driving east along the Queenstown Access Road when he lost control of the vehicle while crossing a wooden bridge. The driver noted that it was raining, and as he maneuvered the bridge, the rear of the lorry slipped, causing the vehicle to topple into a nearby rice field on the southern side of the access road, pinning Rojas underneath. After the lorry was removed from the rice field, Rojas was found unconscious and rushed to Suddy Public Hospital, where he was pronounced dead by medical staff. His body has been transferred to the Suddy Public Hospital mortuary, awaiting a post-mortem examination. The lorry driver, a 34-year-old resident of Hof en Orik, Essequibo Coast, has been arrested and taken into custody at the Ana Regina police station, where he is assisting with the investigation. A breathalyzer test conducted on the driver returned a reading of 5% micrograms. High Court refuses stay in Mohammed's extradition case. Hearing set for tomorrow. Acting Chief Justice Navindra Singh has denied a request for a stay in the extradition proceedings involving United States indicted businessmen Nazar and Azruddin Mohammed. The father and son duo sought to block their extradition to the U.S. to face charges of money laundering, tax evasion, wire fraud, and other offenses in a Miami court. The fixed date application, FDA, filed by the Mohammeds challenges the constitutionality of the Fugitive Offenders Amendment Act. Respondents in the proceedings include Home Affairs Minister Wanij Walrand, Attorney General Anil Nanlal, SC, and Magistrate Judy Lachman. With the denial of the stay, the extradition hearing is slated to begin tomorrow before Principal Magistrate Judy Lachman at the Georgetown Magistrates Court. The High Court will reconvene on January 14, 2026, to address the substantive application, which raises important constitutional questions. The Mohammeds, through their legal representatives, argue that the provisions of the Fugitive Offenders Amendment Act, specifically the authority to proceed, ATP, that initiated their extradition, are unconstitutional and consequently null. They seek a writ of certiorari to stop the authority to proceed and request declarations that Ministers Walrand and Nandlal should not be involved in issuing the ATP. Additionally, they are asking for orders of prohibition to prevent the ministers from playing any further role in their extradition, as well as suspending the proceedings before Magistrate Lachman until the High Court resolves the matter. This application follows the dismissal of a previous constitutional application by Magistrate Lachman, who ruled that the issues raised had already been adjudicated by Guyana's higher courts and deemed the defense application as frivolous and vexatious, characterizing it as an abusive process. Since the stay application was denied, Magistrate Lachman confirmed that the extradition proceedings will move forward, with the hearing set to commence on January 6. The U.S. government formally submitted the extradition request on October 30, 2025, under the Guyana, United Kingdom Extradition Treaty, which is still in effect according to Section 4(1)(a) of the Fugitive Offenders Act, Cap 1004, as amended by Act No. 10 of 2024. Teenager remanded after stabbing gold miner to death. An 18-year-old male, Trayvon Williams, has been remanded to prison following his arrest for the murder of 25-year-old Nicholas Fredericks during an altercation last week. The incident occurred at approximately 2:30 hours on Monday, December 29, 2025, in Komaru, Wakapoa village, situated along the lower Pomeroon River. Both men were known to each other and were locals from the same village, working as gold miners. Reports indicate that the altercation arose from a previous dispute involving relatives at a village event. During the confrontation, Williams allegedly used a pair of scissors to stab Fredericks multiple times. Twice in the upper left chest, once in the lower right abdomen, and once in the left ear. Following the incident, Williams was arrested and confessed to the crime. He was charged with murder and appeared before Magistrate Ravindra Mohabir at the Anna Regina Magistrate Court on Friday. He was not required to plead to the charge and was subsequently remanded to prison. Williams is scheduled to return to court on January 12, 2026, as the investigation continues. AFC calls for vigilance as Venezuela faces regime change. Following the recent U.S. military action to execute a regime change operation in Venezuela, the Alliance for Change, AFC, has issued a call for vigilance among the Guyanese populace. In a statement, the party emphasized the need for preparedness in light of the geopolitical changes unfolding in the region. The AFC stressed that there is no cause for celebration or despair with the removal of Nicolas Maduro, as the desire of Venezuela to claim the Essequibo region remains unchanged. We must accept the reality of the situation as it presents itself, the statement read. In particular, the party urged citizens to remain alert for potential agents that, according to former Minister Robeson Ben, may already be operating within Guyana. The AFC also called on security forces stationed at the borders and urban centers to adopt a heightened state of alert as developments continue to unfold. To regional and international partners, the AFC advocated for sober and informed decision-making, asserting that the Venezuelan people deserve a free and open democracy without the imposition of foreign regimes. The Caribbean must remain a zone of peace, and democracy must be allowed to flourish, they stated. The AFC expressed skepticism regarding the Guyana government's response to the evolving situation, suggesting that the administration of President Irfan Ali may remain hapless and helpless. However, they underscored the moral and legal responsibility of the government to inform the public, through their elected representatives, about any plans to safeguard Guyanese lives and property as regional security conditions become increasingly uncertain. WIN demands resignation of ministers Susan Rodriguez and Zulfikar Mustafa amid corruption allegations. The We Invest in Nationhood, WIN party is calling for the immediate resignation of ministers Susan Rodriguez and Zulfikar Mustafa, citing serious allegations of high-level corruption that have surfaced under the current PPP government. WIN asserts that the Guyanese people are entitled to transparency regarding how public officials, entrusted with national resources, can amass significant wealth that far exceeds their official incomes. Minister Susan Rodriguez is accused of acquiring multiple properties in the U.S. through shell companies within just a few years of public service. Additionally, she has reportedly received several parcels of prime state land designated for development, while ordinary citizens face long waits for access to even a single lot. Furthermore, she has purchased lands from private individuals, raising additional questions about her conduct. Similarly, Minister Zulfikar Mustafa and his family are alleged to have profited millions from their public positions. WIN contends that these incidents are not isolated but part of a broader pattern of systemic misuse of office for personal gain, which warrants a thorough investigation and appropriate legal action following their resignations. The party expressed concern over the deafening silence from top officials within the PPP. How can a government that claims to promote transparency and accountability remain quiet in the face of detailed reports of ill-gotten wealth? They questioned. President Irfan Ali has previously stated a commitment to holding corrupt officials accountable, yet WIN argues that current anti-money laundering laws appear ineffective when senior officials can freely accumulate luxury properties, vehicles, and land without consequence. WIN highlighted the swift action taken against Sherwin Greaves, the former CEO of the Ministry of Housing, who was compelled to resign when corruption allegations arose. This has led to questions about whether Ministers Rodriguez and Mustafa are being afforded special protections by the PPP, allowing them to retain their positions despite the serious allegations against them. The Guyanese people cannot continue to be stifled by corruption, WIN said in their statement. Public office is a public trust, not a personal bank. Ministers who have lost their moral authority to serve must step aside. The nation deserves leadership that is accountable, transparent, and beyond reproach. Silence or inaction regarding these allegations only entrenches corruption and deepens public mistrust. In conclusion, when urgently calls for Ministers Susan Rodriguez and Zulfikar Mustafa to resign immediately to facilitate full, independent investigations into the sources of their wealth. Should they fail to act, when insists that responsibility falls squarely on President Irfan Ali, to remove them from office to restore public confidence and demonstrate that no one is above the law. VPAC calls for immediate investigation into Minister Susan Rodriguez. The Vigilant Political Action Committee, VPAC, has urged the government of Guyana to initiate an independent investigation into Minister of Tourism, Industry, and Commerce, Susan Rodriguez. This request follows recent disclosures that raise critical questions about transparency, accountability, and the management of public funds. Reports have linked Minister Rodriguez and her immediate family to various assets, including a gas station, an apartment building, a fleet of luxury vehicles, the construction of a high-end mansion, and the purchase of a property in the U.S. valued at approximately $540,000. In the absence of any official explanation or inquiry, VPAC is advocating for immediate action, including the temporary stepping aside of Rodriguez to enable a credible and interference-free review. Citizens are left without recourse when the government fails to act, and the accumulation of such significant assets by a public officer demands scrutiny, VPAC emphasized. They clarified that their call for investigation is not a presumption of guilt, but rather a necessary step to protect public interest and restore trust in governance. The coalition expressed concern over perceived inconsistencies in governmental urgency. They noted that the state has been quick to allocate resources to pursue allegations against private citizens, particularly in cases where external charges have already been filed. We do not object to law enforcement, VPAC stated, but we do object to selective enforcement. VPAC highlighted that there is no ambiguity regarding the situation. Minister Rodriguez is a sitting public official, and the government has access to her salary records, statutory declarations, and established mechanisms for reviewing the financial interests of ministers. If the government is serious about combating corruption and restoring public trust, this is an opportunity to demonstrate that the law applies equally to all, regardless of position or political convenience. The committee calls on relevant authorities to open a transparent investigation and provide timely updates to the Guyanese public. Accountability cannot be reactive, selective, or reserved for the powerless. Public funds, public trust, and the rule of law demand consistency and action. Senior Counsel Roysdale Ford addresses media after High Court ruling in extradition case. Senior Counsel Roysdale Ford, representing the Mohammed family, spoke to the media following the acting Chief Justice Navindra Singh's refusal to grant a stay in their ongoing extradition case. We are disappointed that the Chief Justice did not find that a stay was warranted in the circumstances of this case, Ford stated. He emphasized their disagreement with the decision and confirmed that they would be appealing to the full court, seeking a stay of proceedings there. Ford elaborated on the complexity of the case, noting that it involves long-standing issues stemming from conflicting decisions by different courts. This will be a long, arduous process. It cannot result in any sort of quick fix. When asked how soon the appeal would be filed, Ford indicated that they intend to submit it later today or by tomorrow morning. However, regarding tomorrow's extradition proceedings set for the magistrate court, he explained, "The stay has not been granted, but there are other strategic moves we will make to bring these proceedings to a halt for resolution of the disputes." He highlighted that the appeal itself does not automatically halt proceedings but expressed hope that judicial officers would be cautious while higher court decisions are pending. Responding to claims from the Attorney General that the Mohammed family's legal team was acting prematurely, Ford asserted, It's not a question of whether there are legal options, but whether those options are effective given my client's circumstances. He explained that their application for a stay is critical to avoid potential imprisonment under legislation that may ultimately be found unconstitutional. Ford concluded by expressing their commitment to ensuring a fair hearing for his clients throughout the judicial system, emphasizing the political implications at play. We see the hands of the government maneuvering in different ways. The public needs to be vigilant, he warned. In response to a question about the state of opposition leader appointments, Ford mentioned they are waiting for the right moment to proceed, but have been focused on the extradition case at present. As the situation develops, Ford reiterated their determination to advocate for justice for the Mohammed family. Attorney General criticizes attempts to delay extradition proceedings for Mohammed's. Attorney General and Senior Counsel Anil Nantlal has condemned what he describes as deliberate attempts to delay the extradition proceedings involving businessman Nazar Mohammed and his son, Azruddin Mohammed. Nantlal emphasized that the filing of an appeal does not automatically halt the case before the magistrate's court. In a media interview on Tuesday, Nantlal addressed the recent announcements from the respondent's legal counsel regarding the appeal. He highlighted that an appeal does not operate as a stay of proceedings and should not prevent the magistrate from continuing with the committal hearing. These are attempts to delay the hearing and determination of the matter, Nantlal stated, accusing the defendants of strategically prolonging the case. A claim he argued has been acknowledged by one of the respondents and echoed by their legal representatives. Nantlal pointed out that Senior Counsel Roysdale Ford, representing the Mohammeds, recognized in public statements that the appeal does not act as a stay. He asserted that this acknowledgement debunks any expectations that the mere filing of an appeal would halt the proceedings. According to Nantlal, the legal arguments currently being raised on appeal have already been addressed in the magistrate's court and subsequently in the High Court. He recalled that Acting Chief Justice Navindra Singh previously deemed those arguments frivolous and vexatious when rejecting a motion to suspend the extradition proceedings. This is a classic case of abuse of process, Nantlal stated, adding that reiterating the same issues at different judicial levels undermines the orderly administration of justice. The Attorney General also discussed challenges to amendments made to Guyana's extradition laws in 2009, stating that these provisions have been in use for years and upheld by the courts. He noted that many individuals have been committed under the same legislation, with similar challenges dismissed in 2018. That is the state of the law, he affirmed. Nantlal emphasized that every judicial officer is obligated to apply the law until it is changed or reevaluated by a higher court. Nantlal explained that Guyana's legal framework operates according to established procedures, asserting that constitutional challenges to committal proceedings should be addressed only after such proceedings have concluded. If a court later determines that the law is unconstitutional, it can quash the committal order, providing the remedy sought. What is being attempted here is to turn the procedure upside down, Nantlal said. The system cannot be restructured for one or two litigants. The law must apply equally to all. He reiterated that the magistrate is within rights to proceed unless a superior court issues a restraining order. Nantlal noted that no stay had been granted and that no application has been filed to prohibit the magistrate's court from continuing. The mere filing of an appeal cannot bar the magistrate from proceeding. Only a specific order from a superior court can accomplish that, Nantlal concluded. On Monday, Acting Chief Justice Navindra Singh denied an application for a stay in the Mohammed extradition case, allowing the extradition hearing to commence before Principal Magistrate Judy Lachman. Substantive arguments regarding the constitutional challenges are scheduled to be heard in the High Court on January 14, 2026. APNU calls for resignation of Minister Susan Rodriguez amid corruption allegations. The opposition party, a Partnership for National Unity, APNU, has demanded the resignation of Minister of Tourism, Industry and Commerce, Susan Rodriguez, amidst escalating concerns regarding her accumulation of wealth and the purchase of high-priced properties both domestically and abroad. Azruddin Mohammed, leader of the Win Party, has been vocal in highlighting various issues related to Rodriguez, accusing her of corruption. In response, the minister has denied these claims, alleging that Mohammed is attempting to deflect attention from his own legal troubles. Recently, Mohammed disclosed additional revelations, including the purchase of an expensive home in Florida linked to the minister and her partner. In a statement released today, the APNU asserted that the allegations surrounding Rodriguez raise serious and troubling questions that cannot be overlooked. They recalled the minister's previous assertions in the National Assembly, where she described her humble beginnings and her family's connection to the working class. The APNU expressed grave concern that in just 5 years as a government minister, Rodriguez has reportedly amassed significant wealth and valuable assets both at home and abroad. What is currently in the public space regarding the speed and scale of this wealth accumulation is nothing short of frightening, the statement read. The volume, detail, and apparent documentary nature of the evidence being discussed have understandably shaken public confidence. The party emphasized that without a transparent and credible investigation, the Guyanese public has no choice but to draw conclusions that seem to support the allegations against her. APNU clarified that this issue is not a matter of political rivalry or personal attacks, but rather pertains to integrity in public office, accountability, and the responsibility of those in power to prove that their wealth was lawfully acquired. Given the seriousness of the allegations and the troubling nature of the evidence circulating, the APNU believes that Susan Rodriguez should resign from her ministerial role to facilitate an impartial and credible investigation. Mayor and City Council explore relocation options for street vendors. The Mayor and City Council are actively considering various options to relocate street vendors as part of efforts to improve city order and compliance with recent legal rulings. During a council meeting today, Mayor Alfred Mentor announced plans to establish a greens market for vendors previously operating on Robb Street, particularly those displaced near Yip's Bakery due to a high court order. The proposed relocation site is being considered for a pilot project between Orange Walk and Cumming Street, aimed at facilitating drive-through shopping for vendors and customers. Mayor Mentor expressed optimism about the project, stating that if successful, it would serve as a model for similar initiatives across the city. The council has already submitted feasibility studies to the government regarding the construction of dedicated vendor spaces. The feasibility studies for Borda Market highlight plans to expand vertically, with proposals for a 3 to 4 story structure, the mayor explained. He emphasized the importance of developing these spaces to help reduce street vending along Regent and other congested areas while working on enforcement measures. In addition to the proposed Greens Market, Mayor Mentor revealed plans for the expansion of the Stabroek Market and outlined similar intentions for the Vendors Bazaar and Arcade in central Georgetown. These plans are before the government and have already received council approval, he noted. Despite having a vision for city development, the mayor acknowledged a significant funding gap, stating, "While we have the ideas, we do not have the funds to facilitate the planned expansion and creation of new vending areas." Last year, the government allocated over $2.7 billion for upgrades to city markets and vending spaces. However, progress on this initiative has reportedly been limited, as the responsibility for implementation lies primarily with the government. As the mayor and council work on solutions for vendor relocation, the focus remains on enhancing the city's infrastructure while addressing the needs of its vibrant street vendor community. GGMC suspends gold mining operations for 107 Brazilian nationals. Following recent directives from President Irfan Ali for gold miners to fully comply with regulatory requirements, the Guyana Geology and Mines Commission (GGMC) has announced the immediate suspension of gold mining operations for 107 Brazilian nationals in the country. The suspension includes all mining operations, permissions to operate, and any related authorizations. The GGMC clarified that this suspension will remain in effect until the affected miners engage with the commission and demonstrate compliance to its satisfaction. Many of the Brazilian miners involved are reported to have local addresses on Robb Street in Georgetown, with others in areas such as Albertown, Durban Street, and various villages along the east bank of Demerara. This decision follows a meeting last week between President Ali, officials from the GGMC, the Ministry of Natural Resources, and members of the Gold and Diamond Miners Association. During this meeting, the president emphasized the importance of ensuring that all gold miners adhere to their obligations to declare all gold produced in 2025. Further actions directed at the meeting included the deregistration of all registered dredges that fail to submit declarations and the identification of foreign miners operating illegally in Guyana for prosecution and subsequent expulsion. Concerns were raised during the meeting regarding several Brazilian miners who had reportedly made very low or no declarations of their gold production. Those miners were given a strict deadline of 24 hours to fully comply with Guyanese laws and declare their production to the Guyana Gold Board. This decisive move signifies the government's commitment to ensuring regulatory compliance within the gold mining sector and enhancing accountability among all miners operating in Guyana.